Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our So You Want to Move into a Storefront webinar. This is our first session our first session of two that we're offering. This one is a more overview, just kind of the reality check of, is my business ready to move into a storefront? And our second session will be getting more into the nuts and bolts. So I am going to start to share my screen. But before I share my screen, since at least some of our faces are up, I'm going to introduce our speakers. Myself, I'm Josette Fitzgibbons. I'm a business program officer with the Urban Redevelopment Authority. And just a little introduction to tonight. Probably about 90% of what we're talking about tonight is relevant to any business anywhere who's thinking about moving into a storefront, whether it's you have a space that you're sharing with someone, or you're working in a shop and you want to start off on your own, or you're just starting your business, or you're doing something online and you think you're ready to move into physical space. Our discussion is also, we're a little bit targeted at kind of storefront kind of businesses, but it's also applicable if you have a service business or something that would be going into office space as well. We will be having a little bit at the end where we talk about, okay, how do I finance this? And most of that talk will be about products that the URA has, where the Urban Redevelopment Authority, where the City of Pittsburgh's economic development arm. And so that little bit at the end will be more targeted to businesses that are currently located or thinking of locating within the City of Pittsburgh. And then we will have questions and answers at the end, about 20 minutes for that. We do have a big crowd tonight, so we are going to be being a little bit less formal than we are sometimes with questions and answers. If you can put your questions into the chat function, that would be great. That sometimes makes it a little bit easier. And we can even sometimes stop after each speaker and address some of the questions that have come up. And then our space at the end is just for any additional questions. So I'm going to introduce our speakers, and then I will pull up the slideshow and get started with our program. So again, I'm Josette Fitzgibbons. I'm a business program officer with the URA. We have Kate Booker, who is with Chatham Center for Women's Entrepreneurship. She's going to be talking about kind of the business basics of making sure your business is ready to make that step into a space. And then we have Lori Moran from Valley Money Real Estate. And Lori is going to give you the professional perspective of moving into space, of what's the timeline, what are the things you need to think about in terms of what kind of space you need. Is it office? Is it retail? Do I need 500 square feet or 5,000 square feet? So those are the kind of things that Lori's going to talk about. So let me take a minute. I also want to introduce Charles Hudson. Charles, if you can just wave. Charles is staff with the URA in my department as well. He's actually going to be leading the next session. If you decide to sign up for session number 2 about the nuts and bolts of moving into space. So you'll see his face more prominently in our next session.
And Josette, if you don't mind real quick, just to give them a little trailer, there will be Pittsburgh permits, license, and inspections there, Allegheny County Health Department looking at permitting issues around the health department. Lori Moran is going to cover commercial leases, We have a testimonial of a URA client that worked through the URA. Me Empanada is the business, and to tell you sort of how they moved through the URA and what they encountered dealing with PLI in the health department and various city departments to start their business and get into their space. So we've also got a URA lender. Carly Turkele from the URA will be speaking about how to apply for URA loan products and resources offered at the URA. So we're going to get a little deeper into what you really have to do to have your money together, permitting, and actually ink a lease, and what you have to do with build out and permits and such. So that's my trailer. Thank you.
Great. Okay, and Charles, again, if I can ask you to monitor the chat as we're going through the presentation.
Surely, I'll do that. And Oscar, if you'll back me up too, we'll work together.
Oh, I'm sorry, Oscar, I didn't see you. Oscar Medina, who is our intern in our department, is on the call as well. Okay, so tonight's session is, so you want to move into a storefront session 1. And our speakers tonight, myself, Kate, and Lori, and these are our contact information. I will also have this information at the end, so you can have our contact information available. So tonight I'm going to start with, or we're going to start with the business basics. This is, you need to make sure that your business is ready to do this. And we have a lot of folks come to us at the URA saying, I'm ready to move into a storefront. I love Center Avenue in the Hill District, and I saw an empty storefront and I'm ready to go in there. What we want you to do is take a step back and look at your business. And so I'm going to turn it over to Kate to talk a little bit about Chatham Center for Women's Entrepreneurship and about the things that you need to do to get your business ready to move into that. Kate, do you want to share your screen now?
No, I'll share it in a couple minutes. Thank you, Josette.
Okay, just tell me. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Josette and everyone at the URA. As Josette said, I'm Kate Davis Booker with the Center for Women's Entrepreneurship. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the center after I speak a little bit about how to evaluate if your business is ready to move into a storefront. And these are topics that we talk about with businesses every day in our business counseling and training sessions. First up, thinking about your business structure. So if you're going to be moving into a storefront, whether you are leasing, which is most likely, or purchasing, you're going to be entering into a contract for that space. A lease is a contract, but as opposed to a residential lease, commercial leases can frequently be multi-year. And so the value of the contract can be a little bit higher than your typical apartment lease. And so going into it, you likely want to consider having this lease be with your business rather than you individually, in order to give you some liability protection. Now, when I say with your business, I am assuming that most of you would be registered as limited liability corporations, which is the suggested structure for most small businesses today. Now, the other thing you're going to want to think about is your credit, both your personal and your business credit. Now, for your business to be ready to sign a lease, your landlord is going to want to know that your business can support the lease, is making enough money to afford the rent that you will be required to pay. And so they're going to look for evidence of this. They may run a credit report on you or your business. They may ask for financial documentation, whether that's prior year's tax returns, or things like financial projections for the space that show that, moving into the space, you would be able to afford the monthly rent payment based on your projected sales. And you are also going to want to take a look at your business registration status. So thinking about if you're looking at a property within the city of Pittsburgh, the city does require that businesses within its boundaries register with the city. That's also true depending on, I know that's true in Wilkinsburg as well. It really depends on the municipality that you're looking at. But in order to protect your personal assets, maximize the protection of having a separate business, you're going to want to develop for your business an EIN and an LLC. And the LLC registration is done through a certificate of organization filed with the Department of State. Additionally, if you're going to be borrowing money to sign the lease or to do a build out or to expand, many lenders will require that you provide a business plan in order to borrow those funds. I know for most of the URA loans, they do require that business plan and financial projections. Additionally, this can really support your case when you go to apply for space from some of the smaller landlords as well. So you want to have the evaluation of, can your business support this brick and mortar space? And you want to be thinking about all the expenses that will come with that space. So it's not just going to be your rent payment, but you'll probably need to have internet in the space. Maybe you'll have some sort of security system. Maybe you'll be responsible for the utilities. Your insurance may go up. So you want to think through all the various costs that could be associated with moving into a storefront, and think through a plan for how to grow your business to be able to afford those costs. And you want to do it the best way possible that protects your assets and keeps your business entity separate from yourself. And one of the things that I always recommend is when you're considering getting ready to look at a lease for a space, you really need to have a solid key partner. As I said before, a lease is a contract, and it's a contract worth potentially tens of thousands of dollars. If it's a 3-year lease and your rent is $1,000 a month, that's $36,000 that you're signing a contract for. At that level of spending, it really is worth it to make sure you have an attorney look at your lease, so you can understand what the clauses are and what the requirements are, what you'll be responsible for, and what happens in a worst case scenario. Just make sure you're going into it with your eyes open. And to do that, we really recommend that you have a key advisor. We have attorneys that we can refer you out to. We have some attorneys that you can meet with at no cost for an hour, but they're not going to, it's just an hour that you get with them through our center. So that's a real key piece of advice from us, is to make sure you have a key advisor and key partner who can help you evaluate your lease and evaluate whether this works for your business. Now, I am going to share my screen quickly here. Let's see. Oh, wait, maybe I can't do it quite yet. Let me. Well, so what I wanted to share with you all is a little bit of information about the Center for Women's Entrepreneurship. So we are housed at Chatham University, but we're an outreach center. I think that worked. So we are housed at Chatham University, but we really serve the community at large. We do serve students. Even though we're the Center for Women's Entrepreneurship, we serve everyone regardless of gender. And we are outward facing. We are an SBA, U.S. Small Business Administration resource partner, which means that they provide funding for our center, which allows us to help entrepreneurs start and grow their businesses. And we help entrepreneurs through free one-on-one business counseling, training programs, mentoring, networking. We also have a prototype and design lab, which is very cool. And this last year, we celebrated 15 years of being in existence, which was very exciting. As I mentioned, we offer free one-on-one business counseling. We have about half a dozen general business counselors and a dozen technical assistant counselors who work with us and can meet with you one-on-one at no cost to help you conceptualize what the costs for moving into a storefront might look like, what your business looks like today, and if you're able to afford you know, an additional monthly expense based on your current business level. Additionally, our technical assistance counselors are in many different areas, including legal, accounting, human resources, branding, marketing. We also offer counseling for growing your business online, and we offer a bunch of specialized counseling for the food industry, including marketing counseling and general business counseling within the food industry. I see a question.
We have the
Yes.
question. I guess you see it. Do you have any centers outside of the city, outside of the Pittsburgh area?
So our center, the Center for Women's Entrepreneurship, is one of a kind. We are located here in Pittsburgh, but we are a women's business center, which is sort of an outfit of the U.S. Small Business Administration. There are 130 some women's business centers across the United States. I believe they're in every state. And after I'm done chatting, I'm going to put a couple links into the chat box, and I'll include one there. The Association of Women's Business Centers has a map where you can put in your zip code and you can find a women's business center near you. Additionally, there are other SBA resource partners. One of the larger ones is called the Small Business Development Centers. We have a few here in Pittsburgh. Pitt has one, Duquesne has one, Edinburgh University has one, I think St. Vincent has one, and they're often abbreviated as SBDCs. There are many SBDCs across the country. And if you were to Google SBDC near me, I'm sure you could find one, but I will include the link for how to find other women's business centers in the chat. But again, we have centers out within our center. Also, I should let you know, we're happy to meet with someone outside of our footprint here. While we're technically established to service an 11 county range here in Southwestern PA, I've had clients I've met with who've been in New Orleans, Minnesota, Wisconsin. I may not know your state laws, but I can give you some basic guidance and can also help connect you with people in your market who could help you. So we'd be happy to sit with you, talk about your business, and think about what you need to prepare. The other thing I wanted to mention is you should think about preparing key documents you may need to secure a commercial space, including prior year's tax returns, in addition to the business plan and the financial projections. I definitely wanted to mention, we have a specialized counseling appointment called the Funding Clinic. And the Funding Clinic is one of our most popular counselors, Melanie Ansel. She will do a one-on-one with you and talk to you about what your financial needs may be to grow your business and where she might recommend you apply for funding. And then she can also help you work through your financial projections and your document compilation, make sure you have everything together to submit a really strong loan package. Melanie's a former bank president, an entrepreneur, a professor, and just a very helpful woman. So that covers almost everything I wanted to go through. I will be here. I'm going to share a link for how to find a counselor through our center in the chat. I'll also find how to find another women's business center. I'm also going to share, because I did mention credit here, for your personal credit, we are very lucky here in Pittsburgh to have the financial empowerment centers who will work with individuals at no cost to help you work on your credit and work on improving your credit and budgeting and making a plan for your personal finances, which are still very important and are really the backbone of your business finances. So thank you so much for having us, Josette. Happy to field any more questions in the chat.
Okay, I just wanted to do a backup mention about the Financial Empowerment Center here in Pittsburgh. It's actually anyone in Allegheny County can access it, but it is funded through a combination. There's some funding from the city of Pittsburgh and funding from foundation partners as well. So it is not a for-profit credit repair or anything like that. It is a nonprofit, and they are wonderful. Actually, they are wonderful. So moving on to the next part, and I just had a comment. Tamika uses the FEC and agrees that they're great. Thank you, Tamika. So our next stop is, Kate alluded to a little bit, and that is budgeting for moving into space. You know, it's similar to, you know, moving out the first time when you're younger and moving into an apartment or moving into a more costly place. You need to figure out what your monthly costs are going to be. And it's a little bit trickier when you're moving your business into space, because you have some a lot of things to think about as you're moving it. The first thing that you'll see if you're looking at space and you're talking about space and you're thinking about moving into a storefront on you're in a commercial district or something like that, or office space, people talk about the cost per square foot. How much does it cost per square foot? And you're thinking, what does that mean? What does that mean for, you know, what do I pay monthly? So you'll hear when folks talk about that, you'll hear it in two ways, either per year or per month. Usually when people say that space costs $15 a square foot, they're usually talking about a yearly amount. And so I just put, I am not a math person, so I had to make this simple for myself. But I just put in the slide there of kind of how you figure that out. So if somebody tells you that you're looking at this great space and it's 1,000 square feet, which is a pretty small storefront, but again, easy for my non-math brain to figure out. It's 1,000 square feet and it's only $10 a square foot. That means you multiply 10 by 1,000 and then divide it by 12, because there are 12 months in the year. And so that gives you an idea of what your monthly rent would be, $830 some per month. Rents in Pittsburgh in commercial districts range from anywhere from $10 or $12 a square foot all the way up to $30, $35 a square foot or more. Places, the more popular business districts like Southside, Lawrenceville, East Liberty are in the $20 a square foot range. So that's just something you can keep in your head. Sometimes if you see an advertisement, it'll say, it'll have a number and say amount per square foot time per month. So that means that they're actually calculating it on a monthly basis. And that's just if somebody, like I saw a listing recently that said $2 a square foot, but it was per month. So that means my example is $1 a square foot. for that same $1,000 square foot space, if they say it's $1 a square foot and per month, that means it's $1,000 a month. So that's something, I point that out, that might be a little confusing, but it's also something, if you see prices, it's not like looking for an apartment. So they're not going to say that this is $500 a month or $1,000 a month. Ads that you see or things that you see from landlords will often say per square foot. And so now you know the questions to ask. Is that per month or per year? And then you can figure out what your monthly rent would be. You also have to think that there's going to be costs like maintenance and cleaning. If you're in a building that has multiple spaces in it, there might be a cleaning and maintenance fee that comes with it. And then Kate mentioned you have to think about utilities. What are your utilities going to be? Just like you do when you move into a residential space. But you think, work into your finances for your business. What are your monthly utilities going to be? And how do you build that in? And also services in terms of like Wi-Fi and things like that, you have to make sure that they're business services. So it accommodates your point of sale systems and things like that. The other things that you need to think about in moving into your business before you make that decision of what you're going to do and moving into a space, you think about what furniture or fixtures or equipment do I need. So do I have a restaurant? Do I buy a hood, a commercial stove, which is a big expense? Am I a retail space? Am I going to have to buy the display cases, or are they already in there? Am I going to have to do build out, those kind of things? The other is, and you also think about things like, do I have to buy a point of sale system? And what is that going to cost? And some of this stuff you can get financing for it. And so it can be part of your monthly expenses of paying the loans that you need to buy your furnitures and fixtures. And in some cases, those things are already in the space. So you have to think about that. You need to think about, are you going to need to hire staff, and what does that cost? So I am moving my jewelry making business into a space, and I want to be open from noon to 8 o'clock every day, except, maybe I'll be closed on Sundays or Mondays. Am I going to sit there the whole time, or am I going to hire someone to help me? Or is my spouse or my sister or my teenager, are they going to help me? You have to figure out before you go in, do I think I'm going to need to hire a part-time staff person, a full-time staff person? And how much will I pay, and how much will that cost? And, make sure that I know about paying payroll taxes and things like that. And then the last question, which is a little bit of a tag for our next session, is, should I lease or should I buy? Should I lease that storefront for now and see how it goes, and see how my business is going, or should I buy that building down the street? And that's kind of a bigger question. But if you're looking at buying, then you need to have make sure that you have the financing for that. But beyond that, you need to make sure that you have it worked into your budget, the maintenance of that building. It's like the difference between living in an apartment and buying a house. When you live in an apartment, when something goes wrong, you call the landlord. When you live in a house, you have to fix it yourself. So those are the kind of things that you think about when you're moving your business as well. Of should I lease, should I buy, and what are those costs? So do we have any questions so far about budgeting and moving into space? If not, at this point, I am going to move on to our next slide and introduce Lori Moran from Valley Money Real Estate. Lori's going to talk about, first going to talk about thinking about what kind of space you need. And then the next slide after this one will be talking about the timeline. You know, how long does it take to move into space? I'm also going to say one more thing that I forgot. Sorry, Lori. I'm famous for forgetting one more thing. When you're thinking about budgeting, you also have to think about the amount of time it will take to get from today to actually being in your space and how that will affect your business. Will you need to close for a while? Will you need to carry double costs for a while? So that's just an additional thing you need to think about budgeting for. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lori.
Josette, briefly, there is a question, but and I can't really interpret it, but it's can you explain NNN, please? Do you know what that is referring to?
So that was from Helen. Helen, I do know what it is, but I don't know.
Triple net, there you go.
It's a triple net lease, and that's probably something that Lori can
deeper in the
explain better
weeds.
than I can. So this is a good transition over, Lori.
Hi, folks. Thanks so much. I first want to say thank you to Josette and the whole URA crew who are amazing. The URA is a great resource. They have pretty much everything you need. Josette's loaded with money. So if you ever need loans or grants, Josette has a ton. Sorry, Josette. I'm throwing you under the bus right now. Her cell phone number is, and Chatham University is amazing. Their Women's Entrepreneur Group is also an amazing resource. We work with them on a regular basis. My name is Lori Moran. I am with the East Liberty Quarter Chamber of Commerce. I'm also with Valley Money Real Estate Services. I've been in real estate for 30 some years, managing, developing, construction, acquisitions, sales, management, and I'm very happy to be here tonight. I'm going to do a brief overview, and I'm big on Q&A. So I'm not big on how to do the whole internet thing with reading what the questions are. So just that I will do that if we have to, but if they could be unmuted and just ask questions and have a kind of a casual chat, that would be terrific, but I defer to you on that. So the first question, the first thing on this agenda is what type of space do I need? There are three basic types of spaces. There are retail space, if you need visibility, and that's the most expensive space. So you're going to be either in a retail center or on Main Street. The rents are higher, you have great visibility, traffic visibility, walk-by visibility, and so you'll have a lot more traffic and volume and demographics, high demographics. Another one is the polar opposite is if you need production space. Let's say you don't need, you're a baker and you do wholesale, you need some back space. That's the least expensive space. And you would have maybe the back of some places have what they call dark space, which is the back space where it's off Main Street, but you just don't need to, you don't have to have anybody come into your space, you're just working. Another one is a destination location. So maybe you are, this is extreme, but Trader Joe's is a destination location. Or you have a specialty shop where you can kind of be off on a side street that people know about you and they'll come to you. So your rent's a little bit lower. It's not back space. It's not retail space. It's right in between. People know about you. They'll come to you. That's middle of the road. So figure out what you are and where you need to be. And that's number one. Number two is what size do you need? And that's critical because there's a lot of wasted space or you don't have enough space. If you can, hire an architect or draftsperson to lay it out, but it's not rocket science. You can do a dimensional drawing, do a whatever you, let's say you're a retail clothing store. You're first starting out, you've got in your mind what you need, put it on paper. Do a 2,000 square foot space. So whether it's at 20 feet wide by 100 long, or maybe you want 1,000 square feet. So you do, half of that. Lay it out. What do you need? You need a little office. You need a restroom. Lay it out. It's rockets. Put it on paper with pencil and see what you need. It's huge. Get in the ballpark. So that's huge because the first thing I ask as a landlord is how much square feet do you know? And they're like, oh, I don't know. So figure it out. Get close. Sometimes the landlords will help you. Sometimes they won't. But figure that out. Number three.
So, hey, Lori.
Yeah.
Just a note. One thing that I tell folks to do, if you're not a visual person, if you're not someone who can, think of what 1,000 square feet looks like, go into some stores and ask if the owner is there.
It's a great
how
idea.
big their store is. Just an example. Your average Crazy Mocha, I know Crazy Mochas aren't around right now, but a store, if you're familiar with the South Side and know where South Side Works is the coffee shop in South Side Works. It's on Carson Street. Those are about 1,500 square feet, maybe a little bit bigger than that. That's kind of an average storefront. Something in Squirrel Hill, like there's a tiny little storefront on Murray Avenue that used to be Gabby at Jules Bakery, and they moved to a bigger storefront. But that little sliver is probably about 600 square feet. Trader Joe's in East Liberty's probably about 30,000. I think, Lori, that's in one of your developments, so you could probably tell me.
15,000 square feet.
It's 15,000. So that's a small.
25.
Yeah. So that's a smaller grocery store, but that just gives you an idea about what spaces are. Okay, go on. Sorry.
No, that's good. That's a really good, that's good. Yeah, like Subways are usually 1,200 to 1,500 square feet. Anybody, feel free to call me. I'm happy to help with whatever you guys need, but that's a good point, visualize. So the third thing, so the first thing is your size. Second is, are you your destination? Are you need backspace, et cetera. Number three is your budget. What do you have to spend? And different uses have different rules of thumb for percentages of your overall budget. I don't know a whole lot about that, but like a big fat margin, if you're a jewelry store, you can spend more on rent than you can, if you're an electronics store. And Chatham can help, or URA can help more with that, but figure out what you can spend within your business plan. So moving on, I'm going to go to number 5, the timeline. Timeline completely depends upon, actually, first let's stop. And Joseph, can we stop for Q&A on this, on number 4?
You did have a question of what's a triple net lease.
Okay, triple net is, so you have your, triple nets are your tax, that is the shopping center costs, which are made up of 3 costs: real estate taxes for the shopping center, the insurance for the shopping center, and common area maintenance for the shopping center. So each tenant pays its pro rata share based on the size of their store, divided into the entire shopping center square footage. So for example, the Village of Eastside with Trader Joe's and Staples, that shopping center is about 125,000 square feet. If you are Staples, you're going to pay about 20% of the overall costs of all the real estate taxes, the insurance for that shopping center, and the common area maintenance. Common area maintenance is anything to do with the common area, which is where everybody shares the parking lot, the elevator, anywhere where the public can go. So there's snow removal, there's landscaping, paving, etc., lighting for the parking lot. And each tenant pays their share. They vary tremendously. The smaller the shopping center, the higher the per square foot. So in that shopping center, the costs are about $5 a square foot. Lawrenceville Shopping Center, and that shopping center is like what I said, 120, 130,000. Lawrenceville Shopping Center is about 68,000 square feet. And those costs are about $3.50 a square foot. So it just depends. And so it's an estimate, and each tenant pays their share. So if you have 20,000 square feet of a 100,000 square foot shopping center, you pay 20% of all those costs. It's estimated and paid monthly. So you have a triple net lease. They sometimes are called operating costs. They have different names to them. It's not, it seems like it's overwhelming. It's really easy, actually. You have a base rent, which is the bulk of your rent, and then you have the operating cost for triple net. Sometimes it's called a gross rent. You have one lump sum. This is all you got to pay plus your utilities. So it's not rocket science. Trust me, none of this is rocket science. And if anybody scares you with it, that's silly. It's just foreign to people who haven't done it before, because I don't run a restaurant. I don't know how to run a restaurant. So don't feel shy about asking questions. Ask questions of whoever your landlord or your broker is. That's really critical.
So I'm gonna jump in here, Lori, because there's another question. So the best method to find quality commercial real estate, and my answer to that, and you can jump in, is that's a tough question, especially when you're looking for space in a neighborhood commercial district, because it is always helpful to have a realtor working with you, because they can know the things that you don't know. That said, if you would look online, which I sometimes do, and look online and say commercial real estate in East Liberty, for commercial spaces for rent in East Liberty, you may not get the whole picture, because what is online is generally things that are listed real estate companies. And so we have in Pittsburgh, we have a whole lot of small single property owners, or a property owner that owns 3 buildings on a street and handles the rental themselves. So I say the best way to find commercial real estate is sort of a combination of working with a realtor and looking at the things that are listed, but also if you have an area that you like, walk up and down the street and see if there are for rent signs and take those numbers. Also, one resource we can provide within the city and for some surrounding community areas is we can connect you with the business district organizations, like Lawrenceville Corporation or East Liberty Chamber of Commerce or things like that. And they may know what's in their neighborhood. Also at the URA, for spaces within the city, we try to keep tabs on that as well. So we have a staff person who, we're not a real estate agency. We don't serve as a broker or anything like that, but we can sometimes connect you with resources, with folks that might have some spaces or something like that. So that probably, Lori, feel free to chime in, but that probably just didn't answer your question the way you wanted at all, because you were probably looking for, go to this one resource and find it all. So Lori, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree with everything Josette said. Everything she said was absolutely dead on. In summary, this is, again, you're going to hear me say this a lot of times. None of this is rocket science. It's logic. It's common sense. You know what business you have. You know who your target customer is. Where will they come to you? And then if you follow your gut, and then you can hire, there are two main things. Follow your gut and look around and knock on doors. If there's an empty space, there's no sign on the window, but it's empty, look it up. Look at the county website. You can also hire a broker. There were pros and cons to that, and my broker friends are gonna cringe at this, but make sure you be cautious about signing on with the broker. Brokers are very valuable. They have really valuable information because they have a website similar to the MLS. So and for when you're looking for a house, you have an MLS. And that realtor has access to all of those properties, which is really valuable. Conversely, with commercial, you have what's called CoStar. So I can look up a ton of properties that are on the market. And those are things that you may not think to look at, but most of them have signs in the window. So don't be afraid to walk down the street, pick up the phone, call if it says, Jason Cannon, CV Richard Ellis, pick up the phone and call them and say, how much is this per square foot? And is it still available? And tell me about it. And I want to see it. It's okay that you're driving the train. They're working for you. So don't let if any broker or agent tries to make you feel or makes you feel uncomfortable, there's an issue. You're driving the train. You are the one spending the money. So don't ever feel intimidated because it's all common sense and logic. So you can hire a broker or you can walk around and look and make phone calls, but don't hesitate because they have a lot of valuable information. They can help work you through it. And you don't pay for a broker 95% of the time. And you can work this on the beginning. If you hire a broker, the owner of the building from whom you're leasing will pay their fee. So you're not paying them any money. They'll give you a slew of 10 options within the 2,000 to 3,000 square feet you're looking for, within the demographic you're looking for, and we can schedule a tour to go look at these. I'm going to send all these properties first. You look at them, and we'll visit whichever ones you want. And that's how it works. You call XYZ broker. I want a 2,000 square foot space, and I want it downtown. So they'll run out everything that's available between 2,000 and 3,000 square feet within your budget, and then they'll send you a list. And then you say, I want to see boom, boom, boom. And then they'll set up the schedule for you and you can tour those buildings, and then they'll help you negotiate the deal and go to a lease agreement. Nothing is final until you sign the lease. And the way it typically goes is you say, I love 215 4th Avenue. I want to rent that. It's 2,100 square feet. And so your broker will say, okay, I'm going to send a letter of intent to the owner of the building. And you negotiate, whatever you negotiate, the base rent, the term of the lease, which is important. Maybe you want 3 to 6 months free rent. Maybe you need, that's a whole nother class, but the negotiation. But anyway, and then they'll send you a lease. You get a real estate attorney, not your cousin's girlfriend's brother who does medical or malpractice. You get a real estate attorney. It's huge. And they negotiate the lease for you, and then you sign the lease, and then you move in. And that's sort of how the process goes. It can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 30 days, typically from beginning to end. It shouldn't take much more than that from the time you get a lease agreement until you sign it and go from there. I've kind of gotten off track here, but something.
No, Lori, you actually kind of moved into the timeline part of how much time can from the time you see the space you like to the time you move in, and what do you do if there has to be build out, construction of any kind in it.
So some of the things that a landlord's going to want to see, and don't cringe from this, just be ready for it. The landlord owns this. They want to know who you are. They want to know what your financial status is. They want to know what your use is. Are you a grocery store? They want to know, do you have a business now? Are you a startup? Some landlords will not deal with startups. Some are very sympathetic. But they want to know, will you guarantee a lease? What are your financial statements? What's your company financial statements? Kate had touched on, do you put in your personal name? And she advocated company name, always, and a company name. You'll need insurance for that, of course. So they're gonna want to see a credit report, most of them, a financial statement. Explain to them, be honest with them, say, listen, I had a tough year last year. My financial statement doesn't look good for last year, but blah, 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 blah. A business plan, which both Chad and you can help you put together a business plan. Some landlords don't care. Some do. So just be prepared for that. So you've negotiated the lease, and a big part of the negotiation is, what is the condition of the space? Many people say, oh, I got a great deal, it's $15 a square foot. That means nothing if it's in raw condition. So the condition of the space that you're taking over is critical, as critical or more critical than the base rent that you pay. If it's moving condition, terrific, rare, but terrific. If there's money that has to be spent to fix it up, whether it's in like really crappy condition just because it's old, or maybe it used to be a bank and you're going to be a hair salon and it takes a long time, it's going to take a lot of money and different build out to switch to your use. No matter what it is, calculate what that's going to be and how much the landlord will do. It's all over the board. Some landlords will say, I'm not putting a penny into it. Some landlords will say, I'll give you $250,000. And typically what they do, because you'll get it, the tenant will pay for it coming or going. If you get it as is and you put all the money into it, then you pay a low rent. That might work for you. And then you get a loan, or maybe you have cash, or Josette will give you a lot of cash. Maybe you want low rent and you're going to do other work. Great. Or maybe you don't have the equity to do that and you need the landlord to do that for them. You got to sell them on that, because you're asking them to invest in your business essentially. And if you're a nail salon or a hair salon, that's your stuff. They'll never get that back. That's specific to your business. So it's not really helping them a whole lot. So let's say you need $100,000. What they'll do is, if your rent is $15 a square foot, they're going to take that $100,000. They're going to amortize it over the term of your lease. You got a 5-year lease, 1,200 square foot space. I don't have a calculator with me, but they're going to take that money and amortize it over the term of the lease. So it might be another $3 a square foot that you pay, but it's worth it because you're using their money. If you can ever use the landlord's money, use their money. It's much better than a bank loan or anything else. So that's a big thing. Condition of the space and what's your base rent. And how much time upfront is the landlord going to give you? 3 months, 6 months? It's all negotiable. You should have at least 3 months to get ready and ramped up. If you have a lot of construction to do, you should have 6 months or more. Permitting, if you're in the city, is onerous. Permitting in Wilkinsburg is onerous. It depends on the borough or the area you're in. Some it's really easy, some it takes time. So always ask for, and that's a whole nother section, which we can talk about another time, but how to negotiate how much time you get for free. So in short, the broker does a letter of intent, sends it to the landlord, you negotiate the terms, you sign a lease, hopefully you have 3 to 6 months of free rent, hopefully you have some tenant improvement, which is called TI, that they give to you so you can fix up your space, then you open for business and you make a ton of money. And leases, typically a landlord will typically want 5 years, always get an option, always. An option is your ability to renew your lease. So if you sign on a 5-year lease, you ask for a 5-year option. And what that does is you have a 5-year fixed term at $15 a square foot, let's say. Then you know year 6 through 10, you're locked in. If you want it, the tenant controls it at a set rate. So it's typically anywhere from $10 to $15, or 10 to 15% above your first 5 years rent. So if you're at $12 a square foot, years 1 to 5, you're going to be at $12 plus 10 to 15% for year 6 through 10. If you work in that space for 5 years and you don't want to renew, you walk away. If you want to renew, you have that option in your pocket. to renew. The landlord does not control that, you do. So always ask for an option because it can never hurt. If you get 2 5-year options, do it.
Okay,
Also,
Lori,
can I say one more thing? This is critical. Everybody
Sure.
says, well, I'm going to sell my business. They have 6 months left on the lease. You have nothing to sell. So the longer your term is, the better, because you can't sell, you have nothing to sell if you have a year or 2 left on your lease. Always get term on your lease because your business is worth nothing without term on your lease.
so we also have a question, giving, the question is there any way you can give information on rent abatement until you're ramped up? So it's basically, the best way to negotiate with your landlord about, this is going to take me 3 months to ramp up my business before I can open and start making money. How do I do that negotiation?
For the time to do it, it sounds like you've already signed your lease, which means you have no leverage. But the time to do that is before you sign the lease. Before you sign the lease, let me tell you, it behooves the landlord. A smart landlord wants their tenant to be strong when they open. So the more time you get as a tenant to open and you open strong, you'll do well, therefore you'll pay your rent and they'll do well. Not all landlords see it like that. So if you're in the midst of negotiating your lease, figure out what you need, how many months it's going to take you, and then add a month or 2 and ask the landlord for that. If you've already signed a lease and it's taking longer now than you anticipated, just be honest with them. Say, listen, the city's driving me crazy. They're asking for this, this, and this. I wasn't prepared for that. I need time. And be realistic. Don't say a month if you need 3 months. So I need 3 months, whatever. Another way to do it is if you need, let's ask for 6 months, either free or 6 months at 50%, and ask them to tag it on to the back of your lease or amortize it over the term of your lease. So if you need 6 months realistically of free rent because it's taking you it always takes longer to open than you think, always. So you get 6 months free rent, maybe it's worth, I don't know, $15,000. Have them amortize that over the balance of your term. So it might add 50 cents a square foot onto your space. You have breathing room up front. Your landlord's going to get it back over the term. And typically they'll work with you. Another thing you can do for startup businesses, which we often do, is an escalation. So instead of paying $15 a square foot years 1 through 5, you start out at maybe $11 a square foot. And you then next year you go to $12 and $13 and do whatever it takes to average $15. You might end up at $18 a square foot year 5, but you'll be able to start up or like kind of graduate into as you get stabilized. That's another, landlords are usually tolerant of that.
Okay, I am going to move on to the next slide, the next section, which is actually talking. And then we'll open up for more broad question and answer if folks have it. Thank you, Lori. That was great. And also just another plug for our next section, our next session. Talking about permitting and build out and construction are going to be part of
This is my
part of
opinion.
the next session that we're doing, that Charles will be doing. So
Stay here just
that's going to be, if you're really interested in that, that'll be a good session to be part of. So the next thing is, it's kind of this, how do I pay for all of this? Sorry, I think I went mute for a minute. How do I pay for everything that I've been talking about? What I have to do, build out, what's build out? How am I gonna take care of all of that? And one way to do it is, we're not all made of money. We don't all have, a rich cousin who's going to finance everything that we need for our small business. So one thing to look at is financing. We always say, we're often working with very small businesses that have an aversion to going to the bank and getting financing, or going to the URA and getting financing, or some other lender. I don't want to take on any debt. I don't want to take on debt. I don't like debt. I can't do it. Actually, having some debt is part of having a healthy business. You just have to watch, not overextending yourself and being smart about it. And that's sort of back to business basics of also don't assume when you're going to open your store and or your business or your office or your maker space or whatever you might be moving into, that you're just going to put all the improvements on your credit card and be able to take care of it that way. Say, oh, I have a $15,000 limit on my Discover card and I can take care of that. That's dangerous because your credit cards have higher interest rates than a loan would. Even if you have the best credit in the world and the best deals on your credit card, you still have higher interest rates and more stringent repayment on your credit card. So that's done that and have been okay, but that's kind of a dangerous thing to do. So the thing that you want to look at is, can I borrow money to pay for this, and where can I borrow the money? If you have gone to your bank and said, I want to borrow $15,000 or $20,000 or something for my startup, and part of it is, what we call leasehold improvements, which is getting my business into a space, or getting the equipment that I need to do my business to get into the space. And the bank has said no for one reason or another, or is not willing to give you the amount that you need. There are other sources to go to, and the URA is one of them. Within the Pittsburgh area, there are other lenders like us as well that we sometimes call alternative lenders or non-bank lenders. Organizations like Bridgeway Capital, Northside Leadership, or not Northside Leadership, Northside Civic Development Fund, and there are others that can help you sometimes where a bank can't. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the URA and the assistance that we give. The URA is the city's economic development arm. So we do a lot of things. We do things on residential side and on the commercial side. On the commercial side, we do everything from, financing big developments like Southside Works or Bakery Square or something like that, to working with community groups to do smaller developments within their community, to doing work that is direct to the entrepreneur. And that's the work that my department does. We help to connect you with the business solutions department, helps you to connect you with resources that you need. Now, in terms of financing, we are a small business lender as well. We can be the only money in your deal. We can be the only lender that you go to, or we can help fill in the gaps where maybe a bank doesn't, where they're only giving you a certain amount of that you need and you need a little bit more. We have a lot of different programs that you can take advantage of. One program that a lot of our businesses use, a lot of startup entrepreneurs use, is our microloan program. A very low interest rate, and it is between $5,000 and $30,000. We might have just raised the limit to $50,000, and I'm um, uh, I don't remember that because that was something recent, but it is for small loans. And the great thing about the microloan program is that it's a low interest rate, and it comes with two things. Number one, if you come to the URA and say, I want to, I want to get a loan. I want to need some money for my business, but I need some help with finishing my business plan, or I need some help with figuring out how to set up my financials, or figuring out how to price my products or anything, something like that. We actually provide technical assistance. We will connect you. Actually, we will mostly connect you with the folks at Chatham, and that's at no cost to you. And you get kind of a deep dive of help in the area that you need. The other thing with our microloan program, and even to a lesser extent with our other loans, is we do not turn you away because of a low credit score. So if you come into us and have, everything else looks good, and you got your business plan, and you've got this business that is viable, it's a viable idea, and you have the financials worked out, but you were laid off for 6 months last year during COVID, and your personal credit went all haywire, and your credit score is 590. We can look around that, and we can work around that, and we can say, okay, we feel like you're still a worthwhile business to invest in. We may send you to the financial empowerment centers for credit counseling and assistance there to help you get back on track. But a low credit score isn't going to kick you out at the URA. When I'm done talking, I'm going to also show you the URA website so you can go through and see the different kinds of programs that we have. Another way that we help is just this past year, we started a workforce development component where we will actually help you find folks to work in your store. Someone to work 30 hours a week in your new establishment, and you're having trouble finding folks to work with you. We'll connect you with other resources to help you get people into your store, to help you get employees. We work with training programs. We work with PA Career Link. We work with other folks, and we work within the communities. And sometimes we'll have online job fairs and things like that, and listings on our own website. So we will work with you to get the employees that you need. We mentioned before site location assistance. This is a small part of what we do, and we have one staff person working on it. Charles put her contact information in the chat. Her name is Claren Healy. And Claren helps businesses. Number one, she helps, we'll try to help you find spaces, connecting you with a realtor, connecting you with landlords. We try to keep kind of a moving list of things that we know that are available in our neighborhoods, or connecting you with the business district groups, trying to find sites, and then also being a point of contact of making sure you have the technical assistance that you need, maybe sending you to Chatham to get your business plan. If you come and say, I want a space, how big? I don't know. What's your budget? I don't know. So those are the kind of things that we'll help with. And also, helping you through the process of getting a loan from us, if that's what you need. So our site location assistance is pretty helpful. It's small, but it's pretty helpful. The last thing I wanted to mention is we do have a program that we just started this year called Avenues of Hope, which is a focus on 7 commercial corridors within the city of Pittsburgh. So if you're interested in locating in your business in Allentown, Hazelwood, Homewood, Center Avenue in the Hill, Larmer, Chartiers Avenue west of the city, Perrysville Avenue in the north side, certain portions of Perrysville. We will be announcing over the next couple of months some specific financing that is focusing on Avenues of Hope. And one of the things that we're focusing on the Avenues of Hope areas is if for any reason your business is contracting, if you're the person who's helping, build out space or something like that, or businesses like this, we have a program that will be encouraging small contractors, small developers to work in Avenues of Hope districts. So we're have developed a line of credit program, because sometimes it's hard for the small developer to get started, to get their business started. So we've developed a line of credit program that comes with technical assistance on that end as well. So I am going to now just stop sharing for a minute.
Josette, there were a couple of questions. I stepped away for just a second. I'm not sure if you or if we would have the answer to these. One of them was, do you know the approval rates for requirements for the approval rates or requirements for this type of micro loan? You covered the micro loan, but I didn't know if you had heard of like 7 out of 10 that goes to the loan review committee, or 6 out of 10. It's a pretty high number of approvals once they have the right material together for our loan officer to put it in front of the loan review committee. It's
Right.
There's less turned down, a lot less turned down than there are accepted. I'm guessing for some seeing them firsthand, like 60-70% approvals. Do you know a number that's actually a data point, Joseph?
So Charles, I actually don't know a number. I know that specifically for, well, let me step back. When you come to the URA for a loan and you are assigned a loan officer, one of our loan officers, they will work hand in hand with you to get your loan package ready. If you are doing everything that they're asking, and if you have all of your ducks in order, they will walk you through the process. It might take longer. It will take longer than an average loan working with us or working with really any sort of non-traditional lender. If you go into a bank, apply for a loan, you can find out, 3 or 4 days later if you got it, and then that's it. When you're working with us, if you're willing to take the time and work with your loan officer and work through all of the issues, then you have a really good chance of getting the loan. Never say 100%, but once you're working with the URA staff, they become your advocate in the process. So you might have a case where you go in front of a loan review committee and they say, okay, this looks good, but, and you might have to go back and do a couple of other things. I know particularly have had the most exposure to the microloan, because just to know, Charles and I and the folks in Business Solutions are not the loan officers. We're kind of the doorway. So we we introduce you to everything. And then if you're ready to move on to getting financing, then you're moved on to one of our loan officers. I do know with the microloan program that the loan officers become your advocates and will do their best to have everything in order for you to get an approval. So it's a pretty high. It's a
Just,
pretty high.
I just remembered that we do have our quarter one, our quarterly report on the URA website. I put the link and
So
it's
you
got
can
the
look at that.
Yeah, it's got the NWBE links and how many people applied in quarter one, how many were accepted in the microloan program, and you'll figure out can see the demographics, perhaps even the map of the neighborhood. So,
Right.
there
Just
you-
to know, when you see that though, a lot of times folks will, start an application and not finish it. So that's, if you're willing, if you're going to go through all of the steps and stick with it, then your chances of being approved are pretty high. But Charles, that's a great link, and I forgot about that. So the last thing that I want to do before we open it up from broader questions is just show you the URA website, ura.org. And if you go to the section of how we help businesses and entrepreneurs,
Fred, I'm right here.
then you can see the programs that we have. And you can see, a lot of the stuff that we have that is not financing, like our workforce development is here. Our any webinars that we might be having. One thing that is cool is our map. So you can look at this interactive map to see, are there any extra incentives or any about the area that you might be looking at. It has the Avenues of Hope corridors, which are in pink. It shows where all our little neighborhood business districts are, which are in blue. And then in particular, if you're doing some larger, some development and things like that, there are some other things like opportunity zones and things like that. We're not really going to go into those tonight, but it just shows some information about the neighborhoods and the things that are available there. Another thing we have are business district profiles. If you're thinking about a neighborhood, if you say, I really like, Brighton Heights, and I'm thinking about putting my business there, then you can just look on our website and see some information about that district. How many employees, how many residents are around there within, a 2-minute drive time. So, kind of within the market of that neighborhood. Where are there a lot of businesses and maybe not so many of other kinds of businesses. So that's just some good information. And then the last thing is looking at our loan programs. And I know I'm going through this really quickly, folks. The access to capital page, you can learn about the different programs that we have. We just started a program that we call CRIB. And yes, that's a little bit funny. Child Care Reinvestment Business Fund. If you are looking at opening a child care business, this has a loan that is accompanied by technical assistance working with Chatham. And you can get some additional money if you go through the training, because for like a childcare business, there's some specific training that you need. Minority Business Recovery and Growth Loan Fund, which is loans up to $100,000. So these are kind of a little bit larger loans, really low interest rates and good terms for the loans. Here's our micro enterprise program, that it is $5,000 to $30,000. The interest rate is 3%. And it is really good terms. And there's the ABLE program, which is for folks that need a little bit more than the microloan might give you. Here's the small contractor line of credit. And so you can read through all of these different kind of loans that we have. One of the things that I always say, I probably shouldn't say this as much as I am. And I realize, folks, that I think I just lost sharing screen, and I apologize for that. For some reason, my screen share went off, but the URA website has the information that you need. One thing that I also say is that we are one of the nicest lenders that you'll work with. So we will always work with you to help ensure the success of your business. Now, I see that a question, if you qualify for a microloan and you don't qualify for a larger loan until you've been in business longer, how would that work? Once you're a successful borrower of ours, you can come back and look at other loan products. That is a question best asked of our loan officer once you would get into our system. But we do have many clients who have had multiple loans from us. So if you have one and you find out you need more, you're expanding, you need more equipment, you can come back to us. We do have, some of our loans do have requirements for how long you've been in business. Most of it is a year. Some of it is a little bit longer. The microloan is really our startup loan program. And most of the other ones kick in after you've been in business for a year. So that is pretty much the end of our presentation. If anybody has questions, you can chime in now or put them in the chat. We can take a few minutes to take questions. If any of our speakers have anything else to add, anything that I've missed, I'm sure I've missed a bunch of things. You can chime in now as well. Kate, did I see you pop off of mute for a second?
Yes, that was my son. Apologies.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I do have to share with you all that while Kate and Lori were speaking, I was running around feeding my dogs. So it happens when we're doing these in the evening from home.
I got my push-ups and sit-ups in.
So any questions? Anything else? We are going to be putting this recording on our website. And we will be actually dividing it into topics so you can watch 10 or 15 minutes. Sharon, actually, that was a good question. Can more than one business join together to share a location? That's actually a great question. And the absolutely yes is the answer. We're actually working now with some businesses as we work with businesses that are going through some incubation programs and things like that. We're realizing that the future of storefront retail is probably not all just individual stores. And if you are a cookie baker and your best friend is makes decorations for wedding parties and things like that, and you think that you would do well working in a space together, that would be great. You know, even things like someone is doing hair care, hair salon, and you have a business that is natural beauty supplies. You know, yes, share space. Sometimes that's the best way to start your business, is sharing space with another business. Because then you're sharing the costs, you're also sharing the customers. So, you know, somebody walks in for one thing and they may come out with two things. So that was a very good question. Any questions for Kate, you can send to her email, or women'sentrepreneurship@chatham.edu. And if you, I'm sure Kate said this, but if you are looking for assistance from Chatham and you want to talk to a counselor, go and sign up on the website, and that connects you with them, and connects you with with a counselor. And Kate just posted the website there as well. Any more questions? If there are no more questions, then I wanted to get us out by 7:30, and it is 7:30 right now. So let everyone go and enjoy their evenings, maybe watch some Olympics. I want to thank you all for coming, and don't forget, August 4th is the next session in this series about moving in. All right, I'm going to stop recording. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.